All right. Good morning, everyone. Tuning in with Lauren Elaine, who's back from her 4 month vacation. So she's being weekly, regular again. So I love that. And we got Chris, Invest LYH. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Yeah. So this should be a fun topic. I think we're closing down 2024, heading into 2025, and there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and people are kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do. I hear a lot of people just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting right now. But Chris brought up this question about about purchasing power and kind of is there a crash or what's coming in 2025? So you want to talk about a little bit about that, Chris?
Sure. So when we look back at the historical economic data, what we see is a lot of parallels to the 1970s because we had that significant run of inflation, and then it took several years for that, not deflation, but disinflation, which means the rate of increase has been going up at a smaller rate. And what happened back then that I think some people forget is the oil consumption in the US was based primarily on the OPEC nations, which regulated the oil control or the oil production. Well, fast forward to 2025, we can regulate that because I saw this economist probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and he said in 2014, if I were to stand here and tell you that we were going to double the oil reserves in the world in the next 3 years, you would call me crazy. And yet we did that. And we did that in the US because of the power of technology, using fracking technologies. And I lived in it when I lived in Colorado. We had tons of oil wells all around us, and they went down and they extracted the oil and natural gas. And because we are not tied to that OPEC oil input, because the oil is the input that basically pushes the economy forward. That used to be controlled by somebody else. Now it's controlled by the US. This is a thought that I have. If in February, April, May, we start seeing our purchasing power at the high interest rate becoming higher, meaning we're going to be able to purchase more goods for the same amount of dollars that we have, which is deflation. Usually it happens in the products market as opposed to the services market. It will trigger the tipping point of that uncertainty. Whereas people are very uncertain. They were very uncertain up until November. Now we have a little bit more semblance of certainty. Well, once they start realizing that, hey, my dollar that I have in my budget is going a little bit further, they're going to start, it's going to trigger them to say, okay, I think that we're okay for these next few years. And just a thought, it has some basis in the past. I do think that when we look at, we have that 50-year spreadsheet, and we look at the 70s and the early 80s, the one component that I think is different today, not just one, but there's many, but I think one that's a major one is the oil industry and gas, the energy sector, essentially, in the US, where we have the control of that now, as opposed to us relying on other countries, which is what we did back then.
Any thoughts on that, Lauren? I think when I first brought this question to you, initially we went straight to real estate, right? When we first brought up this question, but now we're looking at it from a whole macroeconomics, like how it's going to have a bigger impact on people's purchasing power. So you have any thoughts on this?
It's a really interesting thing to think about. I don't know. I'm no economist. I'm really not even that in touch with the macroeconomics of the country, but I more have like questions. Like, do you think that the purchasing power will go further because you're saying we have more, like the cost of oil has gone down, will go down because there's more available. So it's a supply and demand
Yes.
situation.
Sorry about that.
Does that mean
the production
overall cost of, like, does it have that much of an influence on the overall economy, other costs of goods? Does it bring those down enough that it actually increases our purchasing power that much?
That's the tricky part. So, great point about the price of oil, which is what I failed to mention. Is that so? What will happen is the oil production in the U.S. will increase the supply in the oil industry, which will bring down the global price of oil. And what we in economics, what we often see is that translate into the goods market. So I got a pen here, right? So it'll cost less for us to produce a pen, which means this pen company and the other pen company can compete now on price. It may be marginal at first, but eventually that will filter into our everyday purchases. It'll filter into anything that's made with plastics, a lot of agriculture production. So we should see some help in food prices. Now, do I think overall it'll cause deflation, which means an overall decrease in the prices? I do not. But in economics, we think of things on the margin, right? The marginal decisions that we make each day. So if food prices are coming down and you're in, let's say, upper middle class, will that be enough for you to say, you know what, I think I can buy a house? It might. And we'll have to see. The other thing, too, about this is it's a long timetable. I think the early part of 2025 will be relatively stagnant. But I think as we get into the late end of probably July, maybe August, as we get into that fall season, I think we're going to start seeing spending increase a lot. Now, will that from January to December be able to pull things up saying, hey, I'm using specific to the real estate market. Will that be able to say that the prices that we see in October, November, and December pull up the average price for the entire year? I'm unclear on that, but I do think we will see that towards the end of the year once the uncertainty. It's like that book that guy wrote years ago, Tipping Point. We're going to hit that tipping point where uncertainty in the mind of the general consumer will click, and they're going to say, I can spend now. The uncertainty is gone. I have more of a certain outlook on life. I'm going to be able to spend. And it's going to happen incrementally. The first thing you're going to see is, the soda that I bought for $3 for a 2-liter is now usually about $2.50. Oh, my gasoline is much cheaper. So now these things are just like, they're cascading on top of each other in your mind. And eventually it hits that point and you're like, we're okay. The prices are not going up anymore. The prices, in fact, on some of these goods and services are falling. Some of these goods. That's the econ teacher in me. We always talk about goods and services. Services generally will not have significant price decreases because they don't rely on oil for production or for transportation. So an orange grown in a grove in California being shipped to Montana relies on oil.
So it'll be some of the goods will go down because like in construction, typically once prices go up, they never actually come back down.
They're sticky. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
But here's the thing. Transporting those goods from the producer to the person, I guess, who would be building the house, that would be their consumer. So from the producer to the consumer, if that margin drops enough where they can keep their profit margin and compete with somebody else and say, we're going to give it to you for a 5% discount, eventually that will make its way in. And that's where I think the year time frame, January to December, may be a little smaller than I anticipate this happening.
Okay.
All right. Before we move on, let's say hi to Hyder, Frank in the comments. Oh, Steven's here.
Oh,
we got
hey,
Bat
guys.
Mojo Mindset. I just want to remind everyone, according to Zuber, the ticket sales are way down for the ORAD event. So we got to pick that up, folks. And then if you're out there,
when is that event?
Valentine's Day weekend in February in Vegas. So I know you're going to be there. So, but yes. And then Frank is selling a shirt. So I'll put the link back in. But let's see. We got a few questions real quick. So, Matt says, did you know Tesla can be charged from your home garage? No more gas stations. But Hyder says energy
But
is
energy,
life. That's why I like Bitcoin as an energy store of value play. I
yeah.
recommend learning from his buddy Luke. So we'll put that link in the comments also. What were you gonna say, Chris?
I was just gonna say, Tesla. That's true about fuel. And I say oil, but what I mean is oil and gas. And a lot of those are used to create energy. And the energy sector is the thing that is the lifeblood of the economy. And if we can decrease the prices in energy, because the other thing too, in economics, we talk about assumptions a lot. We have to assume certain things in order to see the movement in the market, the demand and the supply curve shift. If oil prices drop to a certain level, will it cost consumers to shift from electric vehicles to oil combustion vehicles? It could, it could not. But I think the idea with what my thought on this, and I think that I was thinking about it this morning. I'm like, I got to write a paper on this. And the idea is it's not about just kind of knowing where and what's going to happen. It's if you can identify it quickly, then you can act on it.
Act on it, you mean be the first to kind of get back into the market and take advantage of deals right
Right.
before the economy turns.
Yes. So if you kind of start seeing, okay, these things are making sense and their level of uncertainty is dropping, I need to get back into and make sure that if it's a good deal, purchase this instead of holding off. Because eventually, I am working actually on an article about what we've talked about before, Mark, and you guys have heard several times about the differences between the entry-level buyer and the move-up buyer. And in my area of Lynchburg, the entry level is still, in my opinion, going to see significant bidding up of prices because there's no supply. And so what I'm writing is that if you're an entry level buyer early on in the year, do you want to bid against nobody, or later on in the year, do you want to bid against 3 or 4 people? And so if they can identify that early, like, this is the good house for me here in Lynchburg, I want to make a purchase on it, I'm going to live in it, this is not the investor side, this is just somebody buying a house, you should do that, because at the end of the year, you are going to be bid up because there's going to be many more people who are coming off the sidelines to go into it. Identifying that tipping point of the uncertainty as an investor, seeing those properties, saying, you know what, I'm going to make an offer on this. And if I get it, I'm not going to do a ton of negotiating, because a lot of times we get caught in that, okay, we got a good deal. Well, what if I make it a great by countering to this? Well, you can do that, but then 3 months down the road, if you already see that uncertainty is tipped, you're going to get 3 other investors that are coming in.
And what do you see happening with interest rates?
I don't think interest rates will fall. I think that we had 2 rate cuts and nothing happened. I think the dynamics with that, it's interesting. I don't know if you guys know some loan officers. I know a few, and I've talked to them, and they're like, I'm getting calls all day, but I also have friends who are not getting calls. So I think that the consumers are consolidating themselves to the good loan officers as well. And I think that it's kind of a sweeping industry where the people who are really good are going to stay, and the people who are not very good are going to be swept out. And it's hard for me to understand right now the interest rate market, because I do think there is a dynamic of demand there. If the interest rates are not falling, it tells me that demand is still there, because if the demand falls, then they're going to lower their price, but they're not lowering their price. The rates are still high, which tells me the demand is still there for the interest rates as it exists for the loans right now. And I think, again, that's where people are sitting on the sidelines. They will eventually jump in.
So,
and we'll see if the rates fall, but I don't see
if
that.
I'm understanding you, I want to make sure I'm understanding. So basically what you're saying is the demand is still there because we have a low supply of housing still. And so you don't see the rates will be cut significantly because there is still that demand there. things are still moving, maybe not like hotcakes as we've seen in the past, but it's still
Well,
moving.
there's two markets, right? There's a housing market and there's a financing market. The price of the financing market is the
Right.
interest rate. Well, the price of the financing market is not moving, which tells me that there is demand there. Because if the demand falls, then they will adjust the price downward, and the demand is not falling because the prices are
Right.
not
So
adjusting
people
downward.
must
The
still
interest rates are not.
be
Because they have that.
So people must
part.
still be purchasing, like, let's use real estate as an example, but it could be businesses or other things. But people are still purchasing real estate, which means taking out loans, which means there's still demand for loans. Is that correct?
I think remove the purchasing part, because you don't necessarily need to purchase once you get pre-qualified, and you don't even need to purchase once you get a rate lock. You can just let it expire. So that's what I mean, is like there's two markets. The market for the interest rates
Well,
is
but they don't
priced
make
at
any
the
money
interest,
if you
or I'm
just
sorry,
are getting pre-qualified.
that's right.
So
That's
they're
true.
probably looking at the
But
number of people that are actually taking out loans, not just the number of people that are getting pre-qualified.
Right. And it's probably rate locks is probably what they're looking at. And so, because if I don't know what the percentage is, but if you're gonna lock the rate, you're probably there's a probability that you're gonna make the purchase, right? But what I'm saying is that the supply and demand dynamics of that market, if the demand is falling, which means there's less people who are applying for loans, the rates should fall. Now, that also assumes not a natural, but like a built-in profit margin. Now, I don't know, because I'm not a loan officer. I don't know if those are mandated by companies, or I don't know how that dynamic works. That's kind of like behind the scenes that a loan officer would be able to give you a better understanding of that. But looking at it from an outsider looking in with supply and demand dynamics, if less people are trying to get loans at the current rates, the demand would fall, which means the price would also eventually fall.
Right.
And the price for money is the interest rate.
So, okay. So I'm trying to put this together with the oil and just get like a bigger picture of the economy. So basically the demand is still there. So that probably won't be huge significant cuts. But as people's purchasing power, and that could be based on people getting pre-qualified, but not actually purchasing homes. But as their purchasing power increases, they may actually decide to start buying at some point throughout the year.
And there may be more people who jump into the financing market, at which point you might see even rates increase. Because here's the thing: when I say the supply and demand fundamentals of the market, if less people are looking to purchase a home right now, then the rates will eventually fall because there's less people there. Well, if we reverse that and more people want to purchase, rates may increase. It's all relative to the supply of the loans that are out there. So a secondary dynamic of this is the number of loan officers out there. If we lose, like, let's say we go to 80% of the current market, so 20% of the loan officers are gone, and now the market starts, suddenly we see an increase in supply of people wanting to buy homes. Well, now we only have 80% of the original capacity to service that increase in people who want to buy a home. That will cause rates to go higher because they have to, I guess, essentially put a price on the time that they're willing to spend with each one of those new entrants to the market. Yep. The thing about that I love about real estate in general is it's very, very dynamic.
Yes, it is very dynamic.
And there are so many working parts. Yeah, and when you think about outside of the real estate market, when we talk about oil, and there's a guy who wrote a book years ago, and he talked about animal spirits, and the animal spirit is that uncertainty. When we are uncertain, we generally hold our money. We do not
Right.
spend it. If we do not spend it, our economy is generally driven by consumption. It's about 68% of the entire output of the economy. So if we withhold 68% of it, the economy will fall. What I believe will happen is that as oil prices fall, it allows for a little bit of competition here. And then at one point, it's going to break and the consumer is going to say, I can spend again. And some people are just going to spend on a pen. Other people are going to spend on a home. We just got to figure out when that point is. And just, you guys will the viewers will get an understanding of that in your local market, because you talk to people, you hear it from people. And I think, Mark, we were talking about a question somebody raised earlier about owners selling multiple properties. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I've seen that. But then I thought about it, and I think there's 2 here in Lynchburg that are selling multiple properties as like a package. And that didn't happen last year. So we have to kind of identify those things in our little market to understand, like, is this time to move or not? And the worst part is that a lot of times we can watch other people do these things, and we can learn from other people, and we can take the exact same action that they took and get drastically different results.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw, but Dreamin is paired from, I think, probably your channel, Chris. He said Lauren doesn't like that. Her facial expressions are an indicator of doubt. But that's why we're doing this, right? We're not always going to agree, or everyone's going to have kind of a different viewpoint. If you are able to, Chris, I sent you on X. Matt sent a chart. So if you're able to take a look at that, I still got to practice sharing things on screen. That's what I got to get better at. But we got Steven here, who I think he's finally in Pittsburgh. I know he was in Florida. He finally moved to Pittsburgh. He's house hacking. But he says, what about mortgage-backed security investors setting the floor for rates? Let's see. What about mortgage-backed security investors setting the floor for rates? You got any thoughts on that, Chris?
Let's see here. I was reading that.
Yeah.
Steven, what is mortgage-backed securities? What about mortgage? That I would defer to a mortgage broker on that. Again, I'm not in the industry. I don't necessarily know in terms of, because the thing is I'm looking at this from a strictly supply and demand dynamic. If that is the case, if there is a apparatus within the market there that sets the floor for them, that is that's a different dynamic. When I talk to students about supply and demand fundamentals and they talk about minimum wage, I explain to them that is not within the supply and demand fundamental. That is an additional aspect of the economy that basically sets a price where you can't go below or above. We call it price ceiling or a price floor, and he mentioned the price floor, which means that something cannot go beneath that. And if that's the case, then I would have to look and see if we're off that, and if we are, what is the difference that we're off. So let's say the price floor is 4%, and we're at 4.5%. That means there's a 50% margin. Is that the profit margin that is built in? Now, if that's the case, can a company come in and do the exact same job for a 0.4% margin?
Sorry, I'm trying to navigate all of this stuff.
No, you're good. You're good. That chart is interesting. He talked about the oil collapsing in China. And he talks about the oil. So this is a good example. He said crude oil imports have declined by 4.5% in the first 10 months of 2024. Did we all notice that fuel prices went down in 2024? I remember fuel prices did go down in 2024. It wasn't a ton,
Yeah.
but it was marginal.
Yeah, I feel like my filling up my gas tank is still pretty expensive compared, like, throughout, been pretty consistently expensive. Yeah.
It is. But was it as expensive as it was in 2022? Was it as expensive as it was in 2023? Because when we compare it to the previous years, what happens is what I'm seeing in this chart is that the global demand for the oil dropped, which meant prices dropped with it. Because when demand falls, prices usually follow it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what I was paying for gas. I don't remember what I was paying for gas in 2022.
So we usually get fuel like maybe once a week, maybe once like every 10 days. And I do remember in like mid 2024, I'm like, prices have come down a little bit, and they were persisting at a lower rate. So
okay. So it's probably been something that's been incrementally kind of trending downwards. You might not notice it on like from time to time, but if you look at the bookends.
And so that is another point about I guess I call it cascading up, but it's like a compiling. Like, okay, well, it was fuel prices first, then eventually we'll see food prices, then we'll eventually be seeing something. It's going to hit that tipping point. We're okay. Even with the salary we have today and the inflation that we went through, we are okay. We can make choices now for the future, including for some people, I want to buy a house.
Yeah, I think Dreamin says 2025 will be better. And I think that is the big sentiment, is you can kind of just feel it, right? And I think you may have put that in the message, Chris, when we were trying to schedule this, kind of just, Trump being in office, whether you like him or not, he is a businessman and he is going to negotiate and he's going to work with people. He's going to make deals. And I think that's what a lot of people are excited for, just the opportunity to kind of see where we're headed and what kind of, not necessarily policies, but just what he's negotiating out there and what he's trying to put out there to other countries as far as, our stance on things. And I think that just gives people a better understanding of what direction we're headed in. So I think, is that kind of what you were mentioning in our message the other day?
Absolutely. And what you're saying, when you just said what direction we're heading in, that is certainty, which is the opposite of uncertainty. When we have certainty, we act in less what economists call irrational ways. And I think it will. I thought that it could be a harm when actually, it's funny you mentioned the event in Vegas, because I was at the event last year. And I remember when Dan Bird was talking about the bull bear cycles, and he's like, well, we're going to be coming up on a bear cycle. And I remember talking to my wife, because she was there with me. I said, I wonder if Trump gets elected, prices do not come down, and people get afraid and they say, wait a second, this guy was supposed to bring prices down and he didn't. Now I'm significantly uncertain and I will hold all my money, which means we will fall into deep recession. Now, what I forgot then, but what I remembered last week when we were discussing this guy is very different than any other politician. He understands the power of the average American consumer, not just to the businesses in the US, but businesses outside of the US. And he's going to say to them, you want access to these people? It's like a country club. You have to pay a fee. Look what he did with Mar-a-Lago. That place was like falling off a cliff. He moved in, turned it into like a $25,000 a year club, and people started coming back. He's just a different guy, a different politician.
Matt has a question. So, do you think the tariffs itself or the threat of tariffs will bode positively or negative for our economy? I feel like that's a good question that's on a lot of people's minds.
I think that kind of plays into what I was just discussing, where he's more of a negotiator than other politicians in our past. And I think that He will use them strategically. Now, let's take the tariffs and we'll add it into the oil discussion we had earlier. We, if we're paying lower amounts for fuel and we're paying higher amounts for pens, will we notice that at first? I don't know. And I think that the tariffs can be difficult for some industries. I think that the motive that he has is, I mean, I don't think it's bad. He wants more jobs in America that are that the citizens are working. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. That's what I will say. I think that positively, it could go exactly as I said, where they're going to say, he's going to say, if you want access to these people who have the highest disposable incomes on the face of the earth, you need to pay a little bit. And that now, will that be taken away on our side from taxes? Because that is something that I did mention a while back, actually before he mentioned it. And I said, because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, if he's going to raise all these tariffs, that's income going to the US government. Now they're going to pass that tariff tax essentially onto the consumers. How is he going to how is he going to look people in the face and say, I'm raising the prices that you pay for consumer goods? I looked at the inputs and I said, well, there's one lever that the government does have, and that's income tax. If he were to lower income tax significantly, that means all of us generally have higher spending. It increases our amount for a budget each week. Will that be able to offset for the tariffs on items that we may or may not use? A lot of us use items indirectly that we do not know. I have this telephone here that has a lot of chips and stuff that are made overseas. So yes, the price of this will go up. I got this notebook here. I don't know if this will go up. So am I going to be upset about either one of these? I don't know. But on the positive side, I do think that again, there's dynamics that come to play in it. One of which it would be a tax question. Will our taxes increase or decrease based on the amount of the tariffs? Because if it's just tariffs with the same level of taxation, that means prices are going up for us. That's a negative. That means our purchasing power has been squeezed. If it's a good give and take somewhere, because one other thing, sorry, Mark, you know me well enough to know that I talk a little bit. Lauren, you do not. I'm sorry. Let's fast forward 16 months after this, after we raise all the tariffs and we lower taxes. What happens to the job profile in America? Wages go up. So on the one hand, he's charging more money to people outside of the US. He lowered taxes so that we have more disposable income. 16 months down the road, we're expanding. We need to hire more people. So now people are competing for our labor. We get higher wages. Is that a good thing? I do
Sorry,
talk a lot.
no,
Sorry,
I'm just reading Rob's message, and I'm not sure what I was just deciphering it.
I like the meme. I like the meme.
I always get confused though. I always mix it up. But like when we're talking about Trump and whatnot, it's just I think a lot of the issue is he speaks figuratively. No, he speaks, but you gotta yeah, but you have to take it for kind of what he's actually trying to say, right? So like a lot like the tariffs, right? A lot of people do agree. Yeah, janitor on fire, but the tariffs, right? I mean, like most people agree, right? If he was to tariff across the board, it's not a very smart move, right? But he's using it as a posturing mechanism to kind of negotiate and kind of bring certain things to the table where there has to be an even playing field. So I think that's the one misunderstanding of Trump is a lot of times people take what he's saying and they go off of that, and that's where the misunderstanding is. Let's see, we got KC here. Thanks for stopping by. Janet on Fire is talking smack about my Bears. We got Kyle, blue collar landlord here. Yes, this it's been a painful season. Rob, 420. Dango, taxes need to go down. Yep.
I see what he's saying now.
You can't say, oh, okay. Well, what's going to happen if we say it? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Um, but yeah, I mean, Lauren, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you're probably not as political or talking about your views as much, but do you kind of see how people take Trump for what he says and then kind of get a misunderstanding of what his position is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true of any politician, honestly, these days, because everything is sound bites. So we're rarely ever
Mhm.
getting the full story. And and it's hard to know what somebody's going to do when they're in office and they're surrounded by a bunch of advisors, and when it comes down to making decisions that are, you can make broad sweeping generalizations, but when it comes down to like making a decision on a specific tariff or a specific policy or on taxes, I feel like then at that point, we will see what happens. I think when you're voting generally for that candidate's idea, overarching idea, and you're trusting that, like, on the details, they'll be able to navigate them in the best way possible.
Oh, I didn't even. White Lightning. Did you see this, Lauren? We're becoming a dating show now. So he says, Lauren, when are we going on a date? I think that is the first dating question we ever had on my channel. So, uh, and it's the first. Thanks, White Lightning, for stopping by. I haven't seen you here before, but hopefully
Yeah.
you'll tune in even when Lauren's not here. But hit the subscribe button. But I also have a friend, buddy I grew up with. He's tuning in on the Instagram side, but he has a question. He says, "Where do y'all see the real estate rates going under the Trump administration?"
Yeah, I mean, Chris, you're the
John, you?
economist.
I actually don't think they're going to drop. And I think that if you look historically at the growth that the country has seen, I would say since maybe 2000, probably 2000, we had significant growth after 2008. Once we hit the bottom, I should say, it went up, but it went up at 0% rates, Fed fund rates. I think that this is speculation. I think Trump understands that we need to have some semblance of a natural interest rate. And I think that I don't think he'll discourage it, but I think he's going to leave it out of the Fed and allow the banks to make their decisions on, because they're going to cut rates based on profit margin. There is that little bit of squeeze. And I was thinking about it. I think that's where the commenter before talked about the floor, because there is that floor. I think it's the 10-year and the one other one I forgot, but I remember reading about it a while back. But I think that there's that profit margin is built into that, and I think that what the theme that I see is that he is going to try to remove government from a lot of areas and allow people to compete for themselves. So that's what I think, that the rates will probably persist at around 6.75 to 7.25 for the year. I don't know where we will be at the end of the year. But I do think that it's going to be a little bit higher and a little bit then it's going to be higher for us who have purchased homes a few years back.
Which is an uncommon interest rate to purchase a home at anyway. I think that's something that a lot of people forget, is like a 6.75 or a 7.25, like anywhere in that range, that's still a really good interest rate comparative to like historical interest rates. It's not, like getting down to 3% interest rates is not very common, and historically probably will only happen once, maybe twice in your lifetime.
And when you think about that too, what happens is when you get down to that such low rate, you have people start chasing profitability And if we were to look at a bell curve, right? We have the 90% of the people in that one section that are doing things that they normally would do at a 7% rate, at a 3% rate. But then you get those tails. And that is where we see a lot of the trouble happening. And then eventually, once something becomes significantly more profitable in the tail, we build that into the 90%. That's essentially ninja loans that happened in 2005 and what happened in 2006. So I think that the administration, and I don't think it's just the Trump administration, I think that overall some politicians understand this. That's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for the market in general. And I don't think anybody wants to go through that again. So I think that they understand we need to have those rates a little bit more normalized, 6%, 7%, as opposed to the 3% that we had back then. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. I see a bunch of comments coming in, so I'm going to read those while Mark talks here.
Yeah, so I think you have a
all bears.
Yeah,
all bears.
No. All I know is we're going to have a comedy show with the Patriots playing later today.
Oh, so, that's right.
But Chris, I think I totally agree with you. Is that the rates need to stay slightly elevated, because when they were low, we can kind of talk about it a lot. Is just it was free money, and it kind of brought up bad habits, or people were acting recklessly in a sense, with no accountability. So I think rates slightly higher, but I think the overall, we're talking about Trump or whoever's in office or direction. I think the big thing is that there's going to be opportunities from the standpoint where if the economy gets better, if wages go up, like you're saying, energy costs go down, let's say tariffs does even the playing field somewhat. I think, let's say your wages increase to where now you have, like you're saying, purchasing power, even though rates don't come down, but your income increases.
All right, guys, I'll be right back. I have to go get my charger for my computer.
Okay. So I think that is a great. Let me just take her off camera real quick. I think that's a great point to where, so rates don't need to come down, but there's other factors in the economy, I think, that's going to help people's purchasing powers and whatnot.
I saw a question from Mojo Mindset. Can I jump into that?
Yeah.
Earlier he asked, the growth seems unsustainable with rates elevated. I think that's partially true. I think what happened was the rate, the timeline of the rate increases was so compressed. I mean, we went from 3% to 7%, like that. I think that really did harm the economy. It basically did what I think the Fed chair wanted, Powell. He wanted to say, we got to stop. And then I think he mentioned.
Well, I think that also goes back to your point of uncertainty, because the rates accelerated so quickly.
Right. He caused uncertainty into the market. People stopped doing everything. And the next comment that he wrote was, free money masked investors' failure to conservatively underwrite their own deals. So I would ask this: if the rates were lower, meaning we had freer money, and it masked investors, was it really growth? What are you laughing at? Oh.
Sorry, buddy. She can see the comments. I can't delete it unless you want to go back and delete the comment. Hold on. She's back.
Everybody just keep.
I know. Me and Chris we're just gonna take ourselves off camera and just talk in the background, and Lauren can just be on here by herself, because there's another comment for you, Lauren. You're gonna cause a fight in the comments between White Lightning and Rob 420.
Well, I can just sit here and look pretty. You guys can discuss the football or whatever.
Shoots. Let's see. I like them tips, White Lightning said. Okay.
And then one last thing, if I can, about Mojo Mindset's growth. The one area that I think that we all don't know, and I don't think we will know, because we never know it until we look back, that is the improvement in technology. I mentioned earlier about the fracking industry. When I lived in Colorado, it was huge. We didn't even know what that was in 2012, but we knew about it in 2015, and it just shot off like a rocket in 2016. And we don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. They might come up with something that revolutionizes the I say.
All right, I'm putting Lauren back in the middle of the screen now. I'll put myself at the bottom. But yeah, I think shoot, I lost my train of thought now.
Technology, right, increasing, which will cause growth.
That is another question I hear a lot on social media, talking about technology, on all the improvements we have made, but yet aren't we supposed to be becoming more efficient? But yet you see people having to work more. People's like spending, like purchasing power is going down, like we're saying, but technology is improving. But yet, is lifestyle really improving in a sense? You think it's because the way people are just living, we're getting accustomed to?
Well, yeah, I feel like as technology increases, so does the expectation of productivity. So, like in the 50s or the 60s, which is kind of seen as like the American dream time, when you could, off of one salary buy a house and have your kids and all of that, you could go to the office and you worked while you were at the office, but there was no expectation that you would be working when you get home. I was just listening to a podcast the other day with the founder of LinkedIn, and he was saying that if you want to work for his company, you will let you go home for dinner, but after dinner you need to get back to work. And so there's also this like startup culture in the technology space that is, we have to be first to get this product to the market, and so we need you working 90 hours a week. So yes, technology is increasing, but the expectations around work-life balance are changing as well.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Lauren, I'm gonna pimp you out a little bit. Everyone, Lauren will be in Vegas for the ORAD event, so buy your tickets now.
Yeah,
Lauren,
if you want to be in person.
Did you go last year?
No, I haven't been.
Okay. Because I went last year. I'm not gonna be able to go this year. I have an econ conference, but it was great. So I'll tell the viewers too. I mean, it's excellent to get out there. You get to see everybody, number one, and you get these little side conversations where you're talking to them about things, and the light bulbs come off, and you're like, man, why didn't I think of that? I had one with Matt about Matt the Lumberjack, about siding versus paint on an old Victorian home. And the light bulb went off in my head as we were talking. And that is the experience that you're really paying for. I mean, we go there and we can watch all the things, but it's really those side conversations that you have, not just with Matt too. I talked with a kid, it was him and his dad, and they were there from Fresno. And he was telling me about all about the farming life in Fresno, California. And I'm like, I didn't even know there was any there. All I knew was that there was 180 rentals.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, Kyle, blue collar landlord, says, what's your opinion on the lock-in effect and how that maybe plays out the next few years?
Well, first of all, what is the lock-in effect?
You want to?
I can go. Yeah. The lock-in effect is your rate is so low, it'll essentially cost you more money to move to.
Okay. Yes. So I didn't know that was the name for that.
Yeah. And that's going into my article as well. When I talked earlier about the entry level buyer, where here in Lynchburg, at the time that I looked at it, we have 4 zip codes here. And in the zip code that has the highest population growth, there was 8 homes. Now, what I did for my thing is entry level for me. I think it's 60 to 80% of the market. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
We're causing a fight here in the comment section, but Oh
And
boy.
exactly, Mojo Mindset talks about the move up buyer is those are the ones who have the lock-in effect, because generally there was a path. You entered the home in an entry level home, moved up either again or maybe moved up a third time, and then eventually some people even they had like significant salary increase or something, and they moved up to the luxury market. Well, that chain has been broken at wherever you were during 2020. During
Yeah.
2020. I feel like we have to have a separate because I want to read these comments too. I
I
can't do it.
know. I know. Well, Chris, back to your point, I think we discussed it on some lives before, but you had a thought that may work for the lock-in effect, right? Where if
I
there's some
did.
sort of incentive for that or
So it was
homeowner, yeah.
they suggested doing a $25,000 first time home buyer credit. And I was like, what they need to do is they need to move that up to the median level. And oh man. And what that would do is it would incentivize those people who are locked in at the move up level for the entry level people to buy their property, because now they have some seed money to use to lower their payment on their move up. So it would unlock the supply in this area. And then by the entry level people moving into those move ups, it'll unlock the supply for the entry level for the new people coming in.
I wonder if I'll get canceled for this, like having like a dating channel now. Maybe that's what I need to
Just,
do.
REI
just
dates. There you
Yeah,
go.
maybe that's what I have to do. I'm gonna
you know
have
what
to.
you need to do is you need to do a win a date, come to the conference,
Oh,
Hey,
that's
win a
great.
date.
if you are willing to do it, I'll I will offer a date with Lauren, and I'll throw that out there.
Oh man.
Let's see. Yeah, I bet Hyder just parked anywhere. He said he just pulled over so you could start commenting. He didn't want to lose all the work he's been putting in. Uh,
Mark, actually it's funny. I did meet All Nighter Hider at the event.
I met him too. You did. I didn't meet you though.
I didn't even know Mark at the event, Lauren. I didn't
Really?
meet him in Vegas. We didn't talk until afterwards. Again, if you guys go to the event, you talk to everybody, then you start following their channels, and then one day I had a 6 unit here in Lynchburg that I was having some trouble with, and I was on Dion's channel, and I asked him a question, and because I thought that we had grown a little too quick. We went from 1 unit to 10 in 2023, and he's like, you need to talk to Mark. So I reached out to Mark, and we talked, and here I am almost a year later on a dating show.
I have to come up with a new.
Well, to speak to the locked-in effect, I went through this current dilemma of I'm selling a property that has a 2.5% interest rate. And for me, it's an investment property, but if it was my primary residence, there's no way that I would be selling a primary residence with a 2.5% interest rate. I mean, when you look at the monthly payment between 2.5% and 7%, I mean, your house would be a downgrade. There's to maintain that same payment. So I see that as being a real issue, and maybe an argument for the idea that interest rates will come down a little bit more, just to get things moving in that direction.
Right. And I will say, I mentioned technology earlier for growth. Well, technology can also mean a different lending product that says, hey, we will jump on top of the original loan, which they already do it in some cases, but some lender will come out and package it differently and say, Lauren, you have 2.5%. We're going to put that in for this amount. We are going to add an amount on top of that, and we're going to be able to market it to people for 5%. Now you are more competitive in your marketplace because you're competing with 7 and 6.75 and 7.5%. You're at a 5. And I know that some lenders already have that, but we all know lenders, but we also know Quicken, and we also know Rocket. And the reason why we know them is because they packaged things differently in order for people to use them at a higher rate.
Yeah.
Somebody will come out with that. I believe that somebody will come
Yeah,
out with that.
Kyle's totally right. He said even with investment properties, it seems tough. Current owners are still cash flowing, so they won't budge on prices because they don't need to sell. And I'm
Mhm.
on it, to be honest, I'm that seller. Like I got an offer that was not quite where I wanted it to be. And I was like, meh, I'm not going to take it because the
Yeah.
property is still cash flowing. So
Mhm.
yeah, you don't have to sell at a 2.5% interest rate.
Yeah, I think this kind of also goes back to, like we were talking about technology improving life and whatnot. And Rob 420 puts no, because technology improves and so does access. Everyone has access to a full blown, powerful computer in their pocket now. So it doesn't mean as much. And now talking about, like Chris talking about, different mortgage products possibly, or financing options. I keep going back to, Trump being in office, or policies and direction. And I think that also goes back to like deregulation, or just having more opportunities out there. So with less regulation, less restrictions, I think it's just going to allow people to be more creative and present more opportunities. So like we're talking about the lock-in effect. Like, Chris mentioned maybe one suggestion how that could help. But I see just people's optimism increasing, and there's going to be opportunities out there where someone will come out with something to the market that might help with that lock-in effect, to allow some of these properties to come onto the market, because it may make sense, right? So I think, like we're talking about direction and just um, opportunity out there. uh Lauren's okay, good. So okay, so Lauren, is that for sure? Will you be at the event?
I mean, nothing's for sure. Who knows? I could be skiing. I
Oh
don't
my goodness, you
know. No.
typical.
Well, if anybody really wants to shoot their shot, they could buy Lauren her
Oh,
ticket.
hey.
Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would love to go to it. And Vegas, I feel like, is so easy to get to.
Mhm.
I just don't know where my February plans are a little bit up in the air with. I have a lot of variables, a lot of uncertainty, as Chris would say.
Yeah, just like disappearing for 4 months
I love it.
in Bali and
Yeah.
traveling. Let's see what anything else you guys want on top of mind. You guys want to talk about? I mean, if not, I got a few things. Or if you guys got to run, you can hop off. I mean, we're about an hour in, so whatever you guys got to do. Do you guys have LLCs?
Yes.
Are you so apparently it's on hold again. So
Yeah, I got a email saying it was extended to the 13th, which is a good thing because I also have two more LLCs I have to.
well, I think it got extended. Well, so
Okay.
first it was not required. They stopped it. Then they
Yeah.
overturned that, and they pushed it to the 13th. And I think just recently, just yesterday, they put another hold on it.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
are you guys waiting to file yours until you know, or
it's,
did you already?
honestly, it's easy. So it's not. It is just another thing to do. So I'm not like worried about it. I just think just wait till January 20th, and Trump will get in office and get rid of this nonsense. So
Yeah.
oh, Ike Hobbs just tuning in because his Seahawks beat my Bears. So,
Oh,
yeah,
Did they really
that
though?
was a
6-3.
horrible
Is that
game.
really
That was just
cheating?
painful. Um,
More of a win.
yeah, but yeah, so I do have a couple more LLCs to file, but don't quote me on it. Go do your own research and go confirm on it. But yes, it was pushed back to the 13th. But then I also think just yesterday they put it on hold again. So go follow up on that. But yeah, what else? What else are you guys working? You guys excited for the new year? What you guys got big plans going on? Lauren
I
probably does. Oh,
my family is in town, so I spent a week with my family in Hawaii, and now they're here for a week also. So a lot of family time. And we're gonna go swim with the manatees here in Florida, which is
Ah.
one of my favorite things to do in the entire world. So I'm excited for that.
All right. You know what? I think that you should go out with Rob 420. He's a Bears fan, so I'm gonna push for him now.
Where are the Bears? What part of the country are they?
They're in Chicago, so
Oh,
he
Chicago.
is South
Chicago
Side.
Bears.
Yeah,
That rings familiar.
yeah. So I'm pushing for Rob 420 now. He's
I don't
he's
know.
he's my number one.
I kind of am a Seahawks fan because I'm from Idaho, from Coeur d'Alene, which is very close to Seattle. So I grew up with a lot of Seahawks fans. So I don't know how my family would feel about that.
What about on the investing side? Are any of you doing crypto, Bitcoin? What are you guys doing on that?
I have crypto that I've had since 2017, and I'm in it for the long game. I think I'm not really one of these um, altcoin buyers that are, riding the waves. And I think you can make a lot of money. A lot of people are really excited about Ripple and some of the stuff that's happening there. And obviously Bitcoin is tried and true, but I hold the coins that I have, and I'm going to hold them as like a long-term investment.
Hey, what is it? You miss all the shots you don't take, right? You shoot your
That's
shot,
right.
Rob
Good job,
420.
Rob. Keep it up.
I love it.
I love how it's like
Oh,
completely
man.
blind dating. Like well, not dating, but it's a one-way blind. Like I have no idea who these people are.
I'm not gonna even put who's gonna be on the lives anymore. They're just gonna have to tune in and see if Lauren is here. I'm just gonna do.
Oh,
It's gonna
yeah.
be mystery guests now from now on. Shoes. What were you saying? Oh, crypto. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are you into crypto?
I am. I like Bitcoin. For me, it's kind of that. If I put it in there, I can't really use it to keep investing right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I was at a certain point, I definitely would probably be storing money in there. It's just for me right now, everything is recycling what's coming in, going back out. So, like they say, right? Real estate investors are the brokest rich or wealthy people, right? Their money comes in and it's going out to investing. So I do see the benefits of Bitcoin. It's just at where I'm at right now, my money is used in other places. At least I didn't invest in the Hawk Tuah meme coin. I know you're probably not following that, Lauren, because you're not on X as much anymore. But
I mean, that died off for me. I tried X. I just can't I can barely do Instagram. I'm like not active on social media, but no, I did see the Hawk Tuah meme coin thing and definitely didn't invest in that.
all right, before we get into the more dating questions, Rob does have a question. I think what I saw it earlier. We did kind of skip over it. He says, how do you guys feel about investing in raw land in somewhere like Montana? I've seen lots that are 20 plus acres for under 100K, and some even have running water.
I mean, I feel like
I would ask what the end game is.
yeah, it depends on your end game. It depends on what you're
Yeah.
gonna do with it, or what is happening in the area, and what your goals are. I know that a lot of people wealthy people who have lots of disposable income are buying up land, and they're calling it kind of like land banking, farmland. It's depends on your end goals though, and where you're at financially and what your investment goals are. If you have extra capital and you want to buy land, I mean, pretty easy way to store your money with tax benefits. And especially if it has running water, you can just hold on to it. And if you want to sell it in the future, you could, or subdivide it. There's a lot of things you can do with land, but I don't think it's an investment strategy that's going to grow wealth as rapidly as some of the other ones.
I think it's, just like flipping homes in a sense, right? You got you see an opportunity, like you're saying, you kind of see what the area is doing, and you find someone that's going to come in that's going to have maybe a better use for it, and you take your profit and reinvest it. But Rob,
Yeah.
maybe
It's
I
a
can maybe I can get my friend Jack on from Twitter. He's not as pretty as Lauren, but he is a land investor. I'm not sure. I think he might be doing it in Arizona though. But I'll see maybe if I can get him on and we can
it's
dabble in
harder to
that.
finance. So you have to use creative financing for
Yeah,
land.
yeah.
That's right.
So, but yeah, great question. I think there, just like anything, right? If you find the right people, there is opportunities out there. I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing is that I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. So staying focused is going to be kind of
Mhm.
that struggle for a lot of new investors, right? They're going to get caught up in a lot of opportunities that are going to present itself in the next year or so. Let's see. Well, White Lightning did say, "When are we getting married, Lauren?" And uh, but but Rob
Oh, guys,
said,
we're moving a little fast here.
Rapid,
This
rapid
is
real
a prime
estate.
example of when interest rates fall too quickly and there's a bidding war.
"Yeah, I'm not saying Lauren is not attractive, but she's sitting up here with me and Chris, so I definitely think she looks a lot better sitting next to us." But the end goal. Oh, Jen
Oh
is here.
man.
Jen is gonna have fun with this. She's gonna make trouble.
Oh hey Jen.
End goal, Rob, to have a piece of land in an unincorporated area that might blow up later. It's a huge gamble. Shoots that move, but also at the end of the day, if it
Mhm.
fails, then I have a beautiful piece of land. That's a good strategy. I see.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it just same thing. It comes down to like maybe how much capital you have, right? And do you have the ability to sit on that for a while, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it can be a great strategy for growing markets if you're buying up land around the area, around the town or a little bit outside of town where it's going to develop.
all right, Lauren, I got an
Mhm.
idea, business idea. Just we're gonna come out with a meme coin for you because I think we have buyers. We're gonna have
Oh,
a.
perfect. So I can be like the next Haktua girl who
All right, can
is
you
running
put
for
Lauren
life.
on the full screen? I can do that. Hold on, let's see how
No,
this works out.
no, do not. We do not need a full screen of me.
Uh,
I won't be as cute if I'm not next to you guys.
oh, hey, wait a minute. How am I supposed to take that?
Just kidding.
No, no, I
Oh,
totally.
man.
This has been a very fun one. We have, like I said, I've never seen White Lightning here. Maybe I have, but Rob 420 is new. But make sure you guys subscribe, please. Don't just come here and cause trouble and then not subscribe. So please subscribe, help my channel grow so we can get this content out there more.
Oh,
But
man.
yeah, I'm glad you guys. Yeah. Oh, Hyder, this is all fun,
We
man.
didn't have any fun. There were no laughs had without you, Hyder.
What else? Yeah, what else you guys got planned? Anything else you guys want to talk about? How's your equestrian farm going,
I'm just
Lauren?
waiting. That's all I'm doing. Waiting.
Still
Just waiting. Letting my wealth build.
for you, Lauren? Still on the market? Your equestrian farm, or
Yes, on the market. The market here is, I feel like I'm in a different bubble. It's heating up here. It gets really busy. January, February, March are our busiest months. So, yeah, we're just getting into the high season here. So, yeah, I'm excited when I have more capital coming from the properties that I'm selling. I'll definitely be jumping on getting more properties because I think right now is a really good time to be buying because
Mhm.
like Chris was saying, you can either get in now or you can get in later when you're in a bidding war. And I think there's really good opportunities right now for people who need to sell or life situations come up all the time, regardless of the economy or interest rates or the market. So there are some people who have
Mhm.
lower interest rates who need to sell for whatever reason or someone passes away. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity right now. So I'm excited to get into boutique hotels, different kinds of properties once my properties sell.
Yeah, there's always going to be people selling. I think I forget what it is, like the five Ds or something. Is what
Yeah, like
di-
death,
di-
divorce.
death, divorce, diapers,
Mm.
diploma, diamonds,
Yep.
like weddings.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think that's like something like that. But
Yeah.
there's always a reason, right? So there's always going to be opportunities out there. So
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is, tuning into channels like this, or talking to people that are doing it, and just realizing that you know like people in the comments, right? You miss all the whatever shots you don't take. You miss every shot you don't
Yeah.
take, right? So you got to put yourself out there, and be willing to, you're going to make mistakes, um but yeah, I love this. Have you guys ever heard of Whatnot? I have not. You guys?
Mm-mm.
Well, Rob 420, if you can. Do not get
After some of Rob's comments, I'm not
do
sure.
not get me canceled,
I'm
Rob.
not sure if that's directed at Chris or Lauren.
Yeah. So when's your next trip? Oh, I better. Let's not put that out there. You might have some unexpected guests show up on your trip.
Well, I love to ski. So anyone have a ski chalet?
I'll tell you that I'm going down to Tampa in February. I'm not going to be at the Zuber event because I'm going to an econ conference in Tampa.
Oh,
I'll see some friends down
that's
there.
right by where I'm at.
I went to. Oh, very good. Yeah. So I went to Florida State, so I know a couple people down in the area, and I'll see them while I'm there. It'll be fun. We love that area. I'm very close to making a move down there when I graduate.
Really?
Not sure yet. Yes.
Nice.
We're not sure if we're going to move there or out west. So
where out west would you go?
We're on. Probably Idaho.
You were in what, Colorado before? No.
We were in Colorado. Yeah.
You had a cookie business before, Lauren.
Oh, sounds delicious.
What's that?
You said you had a cookie business. Not by the previous some guest that attacked you for your chins, but he did have a cookie business.
Yeah, that sounds like a lovely business to be in. I would love to be in a cookie business. You just like deliver cookies to people. They're so happy.
Well, yeah, it was a little different than that, but a lot of people say you open a business and you start building wealth and all that. So we tried it, and we knew pretty quickly we did not want to run a business. So sold it. It was out in Texas. It's still there. It's called Mary's Mountain Cookies in Frisco, Texas.
Oh, cool.
And so if you look it up, I'm sure there's some videos of me online going through the recipes, or not the recipes, the cookies we had. We had 21 cookies on every day, 21 different flavors. It was fun, but it's a different part of life. I'm done with that part.
Well, you'll have to let me know where you think in Idaho you're gonna be interested in moving to, because those are like the two places that I have lived, like Tampa area and Idaho.
Yeah,
I can tell you
we had a wedding in April in Tampa this year, and we just loved it. And we were just like, and a couple friends of mine from school are down there, some in Tampa, some in St. Pete, and it was a lot of fun. But then it was also April. It was not June. So
yeah, mean, there's weather-wise, they couldn't be more opposite. Like Idaho, cold, snowy winters. Tampa, beautiful, but the summers are atrocious. I'm not going to lie to you. They are horrendous. But in Idaho, the winters can be pretty brutal. So it just is what could you there's nowhere has perfect weather. So you have to choose which one.
One place, Los Angeles.
That's true.
I don't know if I want to go there.
Yeah.
Rob 420 says, Whatnot. think it's Whatnot. It's a new social media. It's a
Oh,
seller's platform where people can do live streams like this, but they can sell, auction off pretty much anything. Another up and coming side hustle. Oh yeah, I would check it out. Says this guy yesterday sells special edition gold coins. He made 174K in under 2 hours.
interesting.
Huh. Yeah, I'll check it out.
I
Looks like
need to
there's
do
a
that.
bunch of live streams going on right now.
Yeah.
Dion,
Mm.
uneducated economist. Oh, there's someone here, probably from your channel, Chris. Dimitri G. Dimitri, if you're here from Chris's channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, please. But it says, what are your thoughts on Tampa St. Pete growth prospects?
Oh, I think it's going to keep growing.
Yeah. And I would also say, define the time frame, because prices are down there now, right? For the middle end of the market to the high end.
I don't know that they've dropped significantly. I think everything's kind of dropped a little bit, but they're
Right.
holding pretty steady. I mean, there was the two
Right.
hurricanes that just happened. So, there's that, but I think that if you're willing to deal with hurricanes, which a lot of people are, um, Tampa and St. Pete is very uniquely placed. It's very cute. It's got a great downtown.
Mhm.
And affordability wise, I think that it's way more affordable than all of the other beach towns in Florida. And there's a huge population moving to Florida. Weather wise, it's great. So, yeah, I think it's a great place to invest, but depending again on what kind of investing you're doing.
And he's saying 5 to 10 years. I just saw. So
Mm,
what you just said, population is coming down.
yeah,
Absolutely. I would say it is going to be a great place to invest for 5 to 10 years, because the population will start still, it's just going to be streaming in. Where I
yeah,
lived in Texas, it was very similar. In 20 years ago, it was all dirt roads. When I was there, we had it was like 6 lane main roads and then side roads going into all of the subdivisions. And I
mhm,
think that areas in and around Tampa are going to just start seeing it. I think Tampa going up to Orlando is going to be like when I lived in Tucson, how it was going up to Phoenix.
yeah,
Tucson kept getting taller and Phoenix kept getting shorter. And
yeah.
I think that from Orlando to Tampa, it's just going to be one big metropolitan area at some point.
Yeah. And with the Bright Line that they've done, they have the fast train now
Yeah,
from
that's right.
Orlando
Yeah.
to Miami. And they're talking about extending that to Tampa as well. So you can go Tampa direct down to Miami. So I mean, that'll make it really a no-brainer for people who one day a week need to go into Miami for work or
Mhm.
whatever. They'll probably choose to live in Tampa.
And I would encourage, Mark, anybody outside of the weekend going to Vegas should sometime visit Tampa. It's a really cool place. The west coast of Florida in general is just
Yeah.
it's very interesting. And when are we going to get you out there, Mark? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I'll get out there. Maybe 2025. I'll make it part of Pittsburgh. I was gonna try to get to North Carolina with my son and the mom for Christmas, but then my mom actually went through with her hip replacement, so
Mm.
um,
Mm.
I'm kind of just helping out still yet. But yeah, this is fun. I mean, we can keep doing this, but before we go on, I put Chris's YouTube channel in the chat. So if you guys aren't subscribed, go check out Chris's channel.
I don't do
Lauren's
many videos
Instagram.
anymore. Sorry.
What?
I said I don't do
No
any
dating? No
very
dating
videos
on your
anymore.
channel?
No dating on my
Just
channel either. I
economics?
don't have my ring on, but I am married. So sorry. Sorry, all the commenters who are commenting. Oh, wait.
Hearts breaking all over the internet right now.
All
Oh,
right.
man.
Well, I'm gonna try something real quick though, because I want to end the Instagram live side because so far we've been streaming on Instagram and I never know where the lives go after. I can't find it. So I think I have to end that stream first and then it gives me the option to save it. So if
Okay.
anyone's watching on Instagram, We're just gonna
Bye-bye.
end this. Yeah, bye, and tune in for the next one. And we're gonna have surprise guests, or we're gonna have mystery guests next time. But thanks for tuning in. So let me just end this real quick on the Instagram side. Does it give me an option to download your video? View this in. Okay, I don't know. It doesn't. It just in the
Well, I'm just
archive.
going to say to White Lightning right now, because I think he's on YouTube, that I am not an investment banker. But thank you. That's a compliment that you thought I was.
Oh man.
All right.
Let's see.
Well,
I'm gonna go to your page and see if I can find your video.
yeah, I don't know. It says I have to go into archive to download your video. I gotta go. I'll play around with it later. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. We can wrap this up if you guys want to shoot the shit a little bit more or whatever. But this was fun. If you gotta hop off, I know the Patriots game is gonna start soon, right?
He's starting soon. That's right. So I gotta, gotta go talk to the Lord of Bill Belichick. See if he can shine his light on us again.
Well, you guys have like the fourth best rookie quarterback maybe
Are you
behind
kidding me right now?
Caleb, Jaden, and Bo Nix, right? And then Drake May.
More like Jaden, possibly. It should be Jaden / Drake May.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Now nobody's gonna believe anything you say on my channel after you spew that nonsense.
Caleb, maybe number 2.
Oh, come on!
Maybe
All right,
Bo Nix is above Caleb.
yeah, we'll get Lauren back on. I won't tell anyone when she'll be back on. We'll just keep it a surprise. Yeah, you always have to tune in, everyone. But this was fun. Thanks you folks for doing this, and I think exciting things are coming for 2025. If I don't see you before the year ends, you folks have a happy new year. Be safe out there, and thanks for doing
Happy
this.
New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year, everybody. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye.